episode of the Wise Guy Sports Show here on the Big Rican on Sports podcast and the Big Rican on Sports YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts, the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez. My co-host, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Jim Crinity, JC Blue Note. James, we threw this together within the less than 24 hours.
Right.
As we really had planned on doing a show until our anniversary episode on the 15th of October. But I think with what's happened in the last few days, I'm going to give you a little present now. I don't know if you've heard this, but I hope you have. So let's sit back and listen to the dulcet tones of the other voice of the New York Mets on WCBS 880, Wayne Randazzo, moonlighting for Apple Plus last night in Los Angeles.
It's deep to left. Tyler's back at the wall. It's 700. Albert Pujols has joined.
That is Wayne Randazzo's call of the historic 700th home run in the great career of future first ballot St. Louis Cardinal Hall of Famer Albert Pujols. My friend, you were waiting for this. I knew you'd have it on. Oh, the Under Armour one. Very nice.
Yep.
I got a different red on. Shut up. 31-7, by the way. So, 700. You guys thought he'd come back to get it. Now is he done?
He's got 21 bombs in a reserve role. What if the Cardinals can make a run? Might he come back for one more?
I don't know. And I'll be honest with you. I don't think he should. And
I don't either.
Let me give you my reason, and I'll go to yours. Real quick, the Bears Affleck trivia question, because I got the Ohio State game on the tablet sitting right here. Only two teams since 2017 in the FBS have allowed less points per game than Wisconsin. Who's it been?
Then Wisconsin?
Yeah, I'm going to say Iowa and Bama.
I agree on Bama. I think the other one's got to be way out of left field here.
And knowing the Bear, it probably is. So here's my thing about Pujols. You're one of four. It goes Bonds, Aaron, Ruth, Pujols. Unless he stays 2 years, Jim, he's not catching Henry Aaron. He's not catching Barry Bonds.
Right.
Is being third all time as opposed to fourth all time really a huge deal? I personally don't think so. It's me.
I don't either. But again, he's 41 years old, and nobody expected him to get to 700. We would be lucky if he got to 685.
Yeah, no, I am with you on that. The only thing I can say is St. Louis has had injuries, some inconsistent play, which has led to him playing every day as the DH, basically. So really, it was a confluence of circumstance that got. I use big words for 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. It was a confluence of circumstance that got him to be the everyday DH. It wasn't a guaranteed thing. But remember, at the beginning of the year, he was only playing against lefties, wasn't he?
Right.
So to do that and to become the man, look, my hat's off to the guy. I have always – my favorite moment in the postseason, non-Mets related, is that ball he hit off Brad Lidge that hasn't landed yet.
And that was before I was a Cardinals fan, because I was a big Astros fan, if you remember.
Yep.
Remember my original blog that spawned our original website. Remember who I interviewed? It was CJ Nikowski, who was one of the star relievers of the Astros.
Yep, I remember that. Was he from Northeast Ohio, or did you just kind of reach out and get him?
That was actually back when players really didn't have – Twitter wasn't a thing yet. Facebook wasn't a thing. MySpace, I don't even think was a thing yet. And he was one of the few players out there that, like, you know, his email got public or something, or like he – you know, it was that's where you could still go to team websites, and then their email would be like under their player bio or something. And I just reached out to them on a whim.
Yeah, and I remember that work, and you were pumped about that too.
Mhm.
So I don't think he should come back. I honestly don't. Right off into the sunset, whatever St. Louis does, as of right now, they have the 3rd seed in the National League locked up. The only seed in the National League except for grabs is the 2 seed, Atlanta or the Mets. The Dodgers are the 1 sealed up, and St. Louis is running away with the Central to take the 3. So had you heard the call before I played it for you? I'm sure you have. Did you catch any of the highlights on Apple Plus before?
I did catch the highlights. I had fallen asleep on the couch after a very, very long day at work that day. Otherwise I would have actually watched it because it was on Apple TV Plus, which means I could have gotten it for free. It was their free game of the day, just on that off chance. But that was the first I've actually heard of that call. I did hear the original call with that, and I think it might have been
it had to have been Cardinals radio.
Yeah. It wasn't Randy on Cardinals radio though. It was their normal radio call. But yes, I did hear it.
Yeah, and Wayne Randazzo,
not yours.
Yeah, well, Wayne has been working for Apple TV Plus since they realized our play-by-play people were garbage. They are. I mean, I like Ryan Howard. I always have. I like him as a player. I think he's good enough in the booth, but they're play-by-play people. No disrespect to who they are, but they weren't baseball people.
Right.
Wayne Randazzo was a baseball guy.
Mm-hmm.
So just telling you, he's the guy in the booth with Howie Rose. So last night, because I'm watching the Mets highlights from last night, because they played in Oakland, it was 9:40. I was tired. I went to bed. I fell asleep right before Escobar hit the grand slam. Gary Thorne was calling the Met game on the radio for the first time since the 80s.
Yeah, because he's getting ready for hockey season.
Well, Gary Thorne was the other voice of the Mets radio with Bob Murphy when they won the series in 86, leaving in 88 when Gary Cohen, who is now the TV voice of the Mets, took over with Murph until the day Murph retired. And then you want to talk about a Met fan booth? It was Howie and Gary on radio. That'd be like having Herb Score and Hammy doing the same games.
Didn't Hammy work under Herb for a little while?
Hammy was TV then. That's why, because it was just 27.
I thought back then TV was Jack Corrigan and Mike Egan.
No, Hammy was on TV in 95, and he was on TV in 96, and then he went with Herb in 97 when Herb's final year.
Okay.
But that's why on the clincher in 95, when they won the division, you have a Herbie call and a Hammy call.
Well, Hammy was actually doing the national TV.
Yeah,
for NBC that night.
And I was there that night.
Yeah, I think we covered that on our last show.
Yeah, I was there. That was insanity. So let's get to a little bit of, you know what? Oh, here's the answer to the trivia question. So the 2 teams that have allowed fewer points per game in Wisconsin are, come on, Bear. Herb Street, shut up. Clemson and Georgia. Georgia I didn't think about, but Clemson I thought used to get in a bunch of shootouts.
Right. Yeah. Georgia, it would have been too obvious for us to think Alabama and Georgia. But yeah, you're right. We consider Clemson having a bunch of shootouts because of their high-scoring games and their championship games.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I'm not going to do a full show about it, but I do want to take 2 seconds really and touch on Thursday night. Big win for the home team. And something we started talking about in the car. And I want to give my opinion on one thing and then hear what you have to say, and then I want to move on. Because like I told you, I don't want to talk about these guys that much.
Mm-hmm.
But great game from the offense. Okay game from the defense. Anytime you let Mitchell Trubisky score 17, 19 points on you, that's whatever. Shouldn't happen. But I will say this. Some of the highlights I've watched, some of my reading into the roster I've seen, I feel you're with me on this. God forbid Amari Cooper gets hurt.
Right.
That is a thin wide receiver room for the Cleveland Browns. That's rough. That's going to be – now, granted, they don't need to throw the ball as much. But
right, because now you've got the best running back in the game. It's everyone was thinking. It's the funny thing about Chubb is that everyone actually he goes up the list of the pecking order league wide year after year. It's like a couple of years ago he was third behind Derrick Henry and the guy in Indy, and now he's actually just behind the guy in Indy because Derrick Henry's now slipped back.
Well, Henry's been hurt a bunch,
right?
Which I mean, you can't be that bowling ball back every down and not get hurt. So yeah, I want to say that. I do want to say they looked great, played a great game. Again, I'm happy for them. My issue is who's coming to take over when they play Houston. But yeah, homeboy gets hurt, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get real ugly real quick.
Yeah, until they actually because I did watch the game.
Okay.
Start to finish. I actually and I did 30 minutes about this. I was up until 12:30 getting that video posted.
I honestly haven't had a chance to even take a look at it.
Don't even worry about it. It's because I'm going back and forth over so many things, just trying to get my thoughts down and then try to go to bed 5 minutes later.
That'll be me Monday night when I do this game.
Yeah. But I did like the fact that over the last in the course of 6 days, he's got such a rapport now with David Njoku and Amari Cooper. And I'd actually like to see them now with the next 10 days. He starts working on getting that sort of dichotomy with Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, and some of their other receivers, and also maybe even get Harrison Bryant in there because this way those guys really don't have a whole lot of touches either. You can't run Nick Chubb into the ground, even though Nick Chubb, we forget, Nick Chubb is 26 years old and has already moved himself into 5th on the Browns' all-time rushing list. He's got 5,200 yards in his young career. And had he not missed 6 games a couple of years ago with that hamstring, he'd be up over 6,000 yards already.
Easily. Listen, John Dorsey found a steal. Was it second or third round they found him?
Second round, very, very top of the second round.
I will say this. You can't rub what?
Buddy boy.
I will say this. You can't run Chubb into the ground. He did miss 2 seasons at Georgia with ACLs.
Right.
And as much as we love Kareem Hunt, he's not an every down back. He wasn't every down back in Kansas City when he took the league by storm. But backs in Andy Reid's scheme seem to have that one breakout year, a year or two where they're good, and then you don't see him again.
Right.
Shady McCoy.
God, that's a name we haven't heard in a few years.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on. Let's jump into – let's do some baseball, James.
Let's do it.
And let's talk about – dare I say it already?
The New York Yankees.
No, shut up. You know what? I am going to say it. Let's talk about the 2022 American League Central Division champion Cleveland Guardians.
Pencil them in. Pencil them in.
Tito Francona. Maybe top 3 all time. Think about what he's done. He broke the curse and won 2 titles in Boston. He has been in Cleveland for 10 years. This will be the 4th or 5th time to the playoffs.
I want to say it's the 5th.
13, they went 13, 16, 17. They go in 18?
I don't think 18.
20. And now, yeah, it's 5 or 6 times in 10 years. that he's gone to the postseason. And 16, of course, is the run to the World Series. 17 is the 22-game winning streak to get them to just annihilate the rest of the division.
And they actually just went up 3-1 on Texas in the 8th, which means that magic number is now down to 3.
Yeah. I hope they clinch at home.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Although our buddy Alex and all Chicago White Sox fans got some really good news today.
Yeah, I actually have that down on my notes. Tony La Russa will not return the rest of this season.
He should go back to being the crypt keeper and leave everyone alone.
I mean, it's a little bittersweet. It's just because we're, our thoughts, go out to him, and we're glad that he's doing better now. But yeah,
Agreed.
should not have come back for coaching.
No, I agree. I believe he should have left well enough alone. I want to float a name out there to you. With the roster currently the way it's constructed in Chicago, with the fact that they can spend money like their team across town, could they go into the broadcast booth and bring Ozzie Guillen back out? Especially with the core of Latin players. I think he's the only move they can make.
Can I pull the Jim Rome soundbite? Yeah, I'm going to do it. Psh, please.
In the positive or the negative?
Negative.
You went all Chandler Bing on me, huh?
I don't see it.
Hear me out.
I don't think you could pull out anyone from, like, you could dig up some of the some of their managers from the 90s, when they won the or when they won their title in 2000 and what, 2004, 5. It's you got to remember, this is a team that was supposed to win this division by 20 games or more, and
I understand.
is on the verge of being eliminated. And how demoralizing is this for the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox? Is that those were supposed to be the top 2 teams in the division, both getting into the playoffs. Minnesota is under 500 and is officially going to be eliminated from the division here within the course of about the next. They just went to the bottom of the 8th. Probably by the time we're certainly done with this show, Minnesota will not be able to win that division after leading for 2/3 of the season in there, and they're also about ready to get knocked out of the wild card too. The Chicago White Sox are clinging by the skin of their teeth, and they're about ready to get knocked out as well, because now with Detroit is beating the White Sox in the 7th in Chicago. I want to say that's 7-2. Minnesota is winning. Yeah, Detroit is up on Chicago 7-2 in the 7th on the north side. So that's going to bring the magic number for the division down to 2. The wild card, the White Sox magic number for being eliminated is 6. The Twins are 3. So the Twins are officially going to be eliminated from postseason play probably tomorrow in some point, and then the White Sox right behind them. How demoralizing is this, that a team that was basically thrown together on a whim, hoping to get to 70 wins, 75 wins, you were going to be thankful if they could get to 500, is going to hit 90 wins and win this division?
It's a testament to 3 things. 1, the Guardians' ability to develop pitching. It's insanity. 2, to Terry Francona as a manager. And 3, now I'm going to throw a little accolade toward the guy who is his heir apparent, and that is Sandy Alomar.
Yep.
Who, when Tito has gone down, has kept this team together and done well. The bullpen has stepped up. I mean, these guys have played outstanding all year, and especially when you had an underachieving Shane Bieber for the majority of the season.
And also, I'm going to give 2 pieces of kudos to my partner right now. Number 1, he was the one that actually, Mike, if you will recall, to the audience out there, whether you're watching us live or you're going to be watching us on YouTube or Twitch later. Mike actually had a lot of faith in Tristan McKenzie as McKenzie started to develop. Tristan McKenzie has actually turned into the de facto ace of this rotation right now, because he was the one that was going out and getting wins and steamrolling while Bieber was still working his way back to form midway through the season. Second piece of kudos is, remember, I've even said that I didn't think that the Guardians had enough in them. Michael said that they were going to win this division going away. They're about to be 9 games up in this division within about the next 20 minutes.
And listen, I am not – if I could predict the future, the Mets would win all the time. But you got to understand 2 things I've seen. I've seen Andres Jimenez and I've seen Ahmed Rosario, 2 of the biggest cogs in that lineup to go with Jose Ramirez. When the Mets made the deal for Lindor, who, by the way, drove in number 100 today, can we call this trade now an even win for both teams?
We can now, yes.
I would think so, because Lindor just led this team, has led the team to the postseason. Now these guys have helped lead the Guardians. Having said that, with what I saw Jimenez could develop into, what I thought Ahmed Rosario was going to develop into, and the pre-existing superstar at third base for the Guardians, with that pitching, I knew they would be a tough out for anybody. But their pitching is built for the long haul, not just October.
Right.
So this team, and they're young.
They have the best bullpen in baseball, and it's not even close since the All-Star break.
Yeah, no, they have really taken off since the All-Star break. It's been fun to watch from afar. It's been fun to talk about with you and to talk about with Natalie on Twitter. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to be the 3 seed, which means they're going to pull the lowest seed in the American League, which I think you and I were talking about on the phone last night. We're talking it's either going to be Seattle or it's going to be Tampa, but I think Tampa took a big hit today.
Well, as it stands right now, I'm looking at the standings on MLB.com. Tampa and Toronto are both locked in at 84 and 67. They're a game and a half up on Seattle. Seattle is 3 clear of Baltimore. And then you have the White Sox, Twins, and Red Sox, and all 3 of them are probably going to be eliminated here by the middle of the week. So it's still it's a 4-team race, but realistically, 2 of them are you can almost kind of pencil in at this point, unless Tampa and Toronto take a nosedive. And oh yeah, the Guards still have to host Seattle for a 3-game set sometime next week.
Yeah, I mean that could be a quick turnaround for Seattle and the Guards.
Yeah,
3-game next week, and then the 3-game.
Remember when they met last month?
Starting the 3-game wild card
Seattle
series
and got clobbered, and then Seattle came here and clobbered them too.
Yeah, no, this is going to be an interesting couple weeks in baseball. But I think it's great that both our teams, actually, well, because you got the Cardinals and the Guards, that all 3 of our teams are going to be in the postseason. We're going to have a lot of fun down the stretch here.
Yeah, and my Cardinals are probably going to be clinching here in the next couple of days as well. Their magic number right now is 4.
What happened to Milwaukee?
Milwaukee still has an outside shot to get in. I want to say that they're only 2 back. They are only 2 back in the wild card behind San Diego. Atlanta's already in. Philadelphia and San Diego have identical 83 and 68 records. Milwaukee's 2 back. They still have a magic elimination number of 10 to be completely knocked out. I could actually see a scenario where maybe Milwaukee sneaks in, maybe San Diego runs out of gas.
It's possible. Or the scary notion is San Diego gets hot.
True, but they're still going to run out of gas with no Tatis.
What a moron. Yeah, because here's the crazy thing. With the Mets and the Braves, it's a game and a half. Philly won the first 2 games in Philadelphia. Of course, the Mets won last night, lost today. I thought Jacob deGrom was going to punch Angel Hernandez in the face today. Like he was right. And DeGrom is not the most dominant pitch. He'll get a big strikeout. He'll just walk off the mound like nothing's going on. He's not Scherzer. He's not the emotional type. He gave up a double, which he hung a slider, and he'll be the first one to say he hung a slider. But yeah, he was ready to smack Angel Hernandez in the face. He's terrible. He is absolute garbage.
He might be the worst official in sports.
Can we get Hockey Lee to come out of retirement and umpire baseball games?
God, that would be fun.
That would be hysterical.
Although I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit, the National Hockey League has the greatest official in all of sports right now.
He's phenomenal. I know exactly who you're talking about. Les McCauley is the best.
Did you ever see somebody clip some of his greatest lines together?
Yes. Yes, I've watched that several times. You know, I was thinking about you earlier tonight because I was watching, I was putting Bobby to sleep, which we almost didn't come on tonight because little man passed out about 6 o'clock. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So finally about 8:10, I got him out. And I sent Jim a text. I'm like, we're on, boys asleep. But I was watching the Buckeye game on my phone on the ESPN app, and we had Finding Nemo on the TV because apparently Dory puts him to sleep, which I think is great. Dude, he fell asleep right around when she says, "Just keep swimming" the first time.
Never
and
saw
I said, "Oh, dude, it's so funny."
I'm not a Disney or a Marvel guy. I've never really been an animated movie guy.
When the title character gets thrown in the aquarium at the dentist's office, Allison Janney is the voice of the starfish.
Love Allison Janney.
Brad Garrett is the voice of the pufferfish. Willem Dafoe is the voice of the fish that got taken out of the ocean like Nemo. It looks like he got hit by a boat.
Green Goblin? Yep.
No. His best role is as Agent Smecker in the Boondock Saints.
Which I still have not seen.
Jim.
Yeah, well, now all of my CBS shows are back, so I mean, I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to be able to start squeezing stuff in. I still have to see The Sandlot. Sorry, Alex. I will get on that. By the time we see each other next, I will have finally gotten around to The Sandlot.
Well, I will say this. You will enjoy the Boondock Saints for 3 reasons. One, Willem Dafoe's character is a gay, homophobic FBI agent. Think about what I just said to you.
Okay.
I swear to you, it's hysterical. And it's Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick Flannery, who are amazing, and our buddy Billy Connolly.
You know what? Speaking of Billy Connolly, I actually went back and I watched. Remember the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary he did on the con man who bought the Islanders years ago?
Yes.
I went back and I watched that last week. It's man, what a mess that was.
Bobby and I have watched Believe Land twice since it's been on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's I get it with my ESPN Plus subscription. I do like the fact that they actually have the extended version, the one that they had to go back and recut 4 days later.
Yeah, I've never read that book, The Whore of Akron.
I have not either.
Story.
But then again, I'm not. You know me. I'm a writer. I don't read.
No, I know. But this dude, I mean, it apparently was pretty good. So where were we? Oh, let's get into today.
Oh, real quick. Let's actually talk NBA for about 2 seconds here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's did you actually see the news that came down about 90 minutes ago?
Dean Wade, 3 years, 18 and a half?
3 years, 18 and a half extension.
But let me ask you this, okay? And I like him as a player. He's a good little player.
Mm-hmm.
Little, he's gigantic. But anyways, here's my question. Are you like psychic? Because now Mobley's brother has to start in Canton.
Did I or did I not call it?
You know, I forgot about him when we were talking about rotations for the Cavaliers. And he's a nice piece. He's like a small forward deli.
But we're talking about We're talking about younger Mobley, correct?
Yeah, well, no, I'm talking about Dean Wade first of all, and then
Dean-
what his impact on younger Mobley.
Well, yeah. Well, Dean Wade has actually, when Dean Wade is healthy, Dean Wade can actually play really realistically any front court position that they want. He's 6'10". They can actually have him body up on somebody if they want. He can shoot the three. He can rebound. He can hack a Shaq somebody if you need him to. If you need to throw 6 fouls out there, that's he could play that role. But and he's rather aggressive when he gets inside that people seem to forget. They think that he's a mainly outside shooter for his size. He's very much people think of him a little bit like Dirk, and they think he doesn't want to body up. Dirk didn't want to body a whole guys up. Dirk would post guys up, but Dirk wouldn't get physical. Dean Wade can get physical.
No, I've seen him get physical in games that I've been able to watch, whether it's on the old Fox Sports app with my parents, sign in to their cable out in Cleveland so I can watch them on my tablet, or when they play the New York area teams, the Nets, the Knicks. I like him. I like the fact that he can stretch the floor and shoot the three if need be. I like him on the defensive end.
Yes.
But I like him at the 3 or the 4 on the defensive end. Now, I know he could play the 5 if he needed to, but at the 3 or the 4, he is really, really good on the defensive end of the court.
Well, I think the only way that you have him play the 5 right now is that if you've got Mobley and Allen either both sitting or one guy gets the night off or the other gets injured, where you kind of have to throw him in there. And we saw that last year with the injury history towards the end of the year. Hell, they had to pull Brandon Goodwin off the street to be able to get another point guard.
I remember, and that's where I think the addition of Donovan Mitchell is going to make them that much deeper, because now it's a healthy Rubio. You have Karis LeVert who can run the 1 if you need to. Donovan can run the 1 if you need to. So you have guys that can do it when you're trying to give Darius Garland a little bit of a blow.
Right.
Did you see that? The halftime show's on behind me here. Did Iowa score 24 points today? Or do I need my eyes checked? Granted, they're playing Rutgers. I get it, but Michigan State got smoked.
Yeah, this is only giving me the top 25. Speaking of which, you and I talked about it just before we went on air. Big ups to local Northeast Ohio team Kent, who actually gave Georgia a game today.
Yeah, they just showed the highlights. A 39-22 win by Georgia, the number 1 team in the country. Really, Kent's got a mobile quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't watched a lot of Kent State film, obviously, with me. The band's on the field. Hold on. Sidebar, funny story real quick. So my oldest, Caitlin, was in the color guard at her high school in the marching band. So they have a fall band festival. Remember, like Brush used to have it every year?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went, and on the weekends, you know me, and it's fall, I have on Scarlet and Gray. I had kids coming up to me asking if I was recruiting. It's like, nah, guys, I'm a football fan, but they're great. They're phenomenal, but no.
4 years of high school, never went to a game.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that remember when I moved and you and I started going to school together, we actually didn't meet until your freshman year, my sophomore. But
that's when I got there. So
right, it's so I went to Memorial, which was the junior high, and I had just come over from Mayfield, the rivals. So I actually went over the first Mayfield Memorial 8th grade game or 7th grade game or whatever it was. I went over and I sat on the Mayfield side, even though I was attending Memorial, and I started talking with some of my friends. I went into school the very next day, and man, did I get the crap kicked out of me.
Well, yeah.
It's like, I don't know you guys. I just moved away from those people 3 weeks ago.
Well, I got news for you. Mayfield still had to go to Brush to get their head coach, so that's all that matters to me.
Name how many times Brush has actually played in a state championship game.
Listen, man, I'm just saying.
Still scoreboard, dude.
Dude, there is no scoreboard.
I went to a year of Memorial and all 4 years of Brush, and I always considered myself a Mayfield kid, so much so that I moved back and have been here for 13 years.
No, you never really were you weren't dyed in the wool, brown and gold. I was by indoctrination because that's where, my parents were like, oh, you can go to Catholic school. Nope, need girls in the room. No way, sorry.
No.
Anyways.
I did that in kindergarten and first grade. Yep, not going to happen.
Yeah, I did nothing but public school. But see, I told you we could still throw a show together and go off the rails. So getting back to today, so obviously Kent State, I'm pretty sure they have a mobile quarterback, which gives these SEC defenses a problem because the good SEC teams really don't have the mobile quarterback.
Excuse me.
Outside of Bama, and really Tua, who was the quote-unquote best Bama quarterback they've ever seen, he's a pocket passer. Jalen Hurts was an option quarterback, so but again, he looks good in the NFL. Georgia's had problems with the mobile quarterbacks. That's how Bryce Young beat them in the SEC championship game last year, and they figured out a way to get him in the national title game. But Kent, big up to Kent.
Looking up the stat line, Kent's quarterback is
one of us just froze.
Carried 7 times for 2 yards today. He was 14 of 21 for 174, a touchdown and an interception.
They run the ball effectively then?
93 yards. Georgia had 257 yards rushing. Kent only had 93 rushing.
How'd they score?
That's a hell of a question here. I mean, Georgia did lose 2 fumbles.
You know what? And I bet those fumbles were in Georgia's end of the field. I'm screen capturing this.
3 turnovers. Kent State won the turnover margin.
So that's how you score 22 points on a team that's that good.
Right, and you actually end up covering that spread too.
Wow, that's a bad beat for the bettors in the world.
Oh yeah, because I mean that the over under was 61.5. It was
got to 61.
It hit it right on. It hit it just about on the number. Georgia was a 45-point favorite.
Speaking of double-digit, more than 20-point favorites, let's talk about Middle Tennessee State and Miami today.
My post from 2 weeks ago did not age well.
No, and I'm not saying it because of that. I'm merely saying it because – stop it.
Hey, I got a Steelers fan over me. I could pull the old insane clown posse line. I can hang myself and swing around and kick you in the head.
Well, listen, save that for a couple weeks from now. It was funny because I'm sitting here as I open up. We got one more baseball thing to cover when I'm done with this one here. And I flip through and I go, wait, that can't be anything more than a typo. They went out and smoked Miami.
Here's the thing, though. With the win, MTSU is 3-1 on the year already.
And what's Miami, 2-2?
Yeah.
Scary part is they might still win the ACC.
Yeah, but they have to go. They're in Death Valley for the Clemson game this year, and MTSU lost 44-7 in their opener to James Madison, and James Madison is a very good team in the Sun Belt. They hung 34 on Colorado State. They put 49 up against Tennessee State, a 1AA, and then hung 45 on Miami today.
Well, here's my question. Is the Sun Belt just out to smack people around this year? Because they have beaten everybody. Georgia Southern, of course, beats Nebraska, sent Scott Frost off to the unemployment line. Middle Tennessee today beats Miami. There was one other team that won.
App State.
App State. By the way, A&M just is winning last I saw.
Speaking of which, I never actually got the score of that App State game today.
That game against Troy.
That was the big one I was looking forward to today, and I slept through it.
Must be nice.
Oh, they knocked off App State 32-28. Wow.
Who did?
James Madison.
Wow.
App State has been in a close game. They've been their 2 losses are by a combined 6 points.
Listen, that's crazy.
App State blew a 28-3 lead in that game.
Who do they think they are? The Atlanta Falcons?
James Madison scored got a field goal for the only points of the third quarter. App State got all 28 of their points in the second quarter, went into the locker room with a 28-10 lead, and then James Madison just completely took over. Outscored them 22-0 in the second half.
Wow.
And I brought this up in when I blogged about App State a couple of weeks ago. App State has won the time of possession battle every game so far this year by at least 5 minutes. When they upset A&M a couple of weeks ago, they had the ball for over 41 minutes of that game.
Oh, that's insane.
App State only had the ball for 26 and a half minutes today. It's the first time this year that they've lost the time of possession battle.
Are they the ground and pound 3 yards in a cloud of dust type, or they just keep the chains moving with short stuff?
They're a little bit of both from what I've seen of them. I watched the North Carolina game. I watched the replay of the A&M upset. I did not see the walk off against Troy last week.
That was crazy.
I saw the walk off itself, but I did not actually catch the game.
Yeah, that was crazy. 30 just a little as the second half starts in Columbus, 31-7 Ohio State. Scored on their first 4 touchdowns, their first 4 possessions, after doing it first 7 possessions last week against Toledo. So let's go into a little bit more of the landscape. So it seems the top teams held serve today. Bama's beating Vandy, I think I saw. Georgia, of course, beats Kent State. Ohio State's up 24 points against a team in Wisconsin that doesn't have a passing attack. As a matter of fact, you're down 24 points and you ran the ball in the first play of the third quarter.
Yeah, Bama's actually – they're midway through the third, but yeah, that one's already decided, and they're about ready to score again. But you got a good one going on right now with A&M and Arkansas.
Yeah, so it's 2014 last I saw.
Yeah, 23-14, A&M leads at home, and they've now just gone to the fourth, and A&M has it 4th and 6 on their own 31.
Gotcha.
While we're talking about the SEC, God, I hate Tennessee.
Why now?
Is there a more annoying college football program out there than the Tennessee Volunteers?
Harbaugh.
That's just because of the coach, but I'm talking top to bottom. I'm talking traditions, colors, mindset of everyone going into the year thinking it's always going to be their year. Is a fight song. Rocky Top is the worst song in the history of fight songs.
Answer stands.
You're just bitter.
No, I'm not. And I've said this before.
You're a homer.
I am a homer. I took my beating from you because my boys took a beating in Ann Arbor last year. It's going to be different in Columbus. Especially with Jim Knowles' defense going to be mad. Oh, good. We got an offensive holding call. Yay. Anyways.
I'm just trying to actually figure out how I can program my computer for a very, very quick malfunction when I go to take my lumps this year.
You ain't right. You ain't right at all. I took a beating from you.
Hey, did you ever actually stop to think that maybe I'm the sane one and all of y'all are nuts?
All the time. Listen, man, I've known you a long time. You've known me a long time. I'm as crazy
Remember,
as a
Remember, I used to actually come to college with a shirt that says I'd kidnap myself. Give me $1 million or you'll never see my ass again.
I think I asked you 5 or 6 times where you got that shirt from because it was just epic. Oh, so one of my close friends from out there, her son is 4, or going to be 4. So she had said she had clothes for Bobby. My parents' best friends who lived the road from me were just out there. Dude, the shirts this kid got. One says, I still live with my mom and dad. When one says, Dad's a little dude. What was the other one? It was just hysterical. So Steph is like trying clothes on the other day when I'm at work. And my phone buzzes and I'm not looking at it because I was, like I said, I was running the office this week, just trying to, be able to move up. And I look down and I see Dad's little dude. I still live with my parents. And then the next one, he's got like this onesie, like romper thing on with a hood, and it's like a dragon. It's got scales all the way down the back. Yep. And I'm like, wow, that's some cool stuff, dude. The stuff we got for him. And there was a Buckeye shirt in there. Oh, come on. That onesie last year was cute. And it was funny.
Yeah, considering the Buckeyes were the one that took one.
They really did. Actually, their defense took one. The offense didn't play terrible. Wisconsin's defense stepping up.
While we're talking about it, what's your favorite, whether you've owned it or you've seen it, what's your favorite graphic shirt of all time? Your favorite funny graphic shirt that you can remember?
I have one that I purchased for a buddy of mine, and it was a brown T-shirt. It says, I can be your private dancer. The Life is Good one, the Grip It and Rip It, that was fun. Some of the ones from like, what was that store? It's from Spencer's. Some of the ones from Spencer's.
Spencer's are Hot Topic.
Yes. There was one I saw in Florida during the big New Kids on the Block stuff. It said nuked kids on the block, and they were like had toxic waste dripping off them.
It was like spinning off Garbage Pail Kids or something,
Yes, but my favorite of all time, it quite simply is an outline of a face with a blue hat and a mustache, and it says, I'm Keith Hernandez. Do you see he's done for the year?
Why now?
He went to step up on a curb in Oakland yesterday. He missed. He fell. And in trying to save his glasses and his iPhone, he tore up his shoulder. He's going in for surgery at Hospital Special Surgery in New York. Yeah, he messed himself up. Last year, it was 8 stitches in the big toe from falling off the hot tub pruning the bushes.
We can actually add this to a few shows ago for stupid baseball injuries.
Gary Cohen and Ron Darling were mad at him for erasing the security camera footage. Like took him to task on the air. How dare you erase that? They went after him. It was great.
I think probably my favorite graphic shirt. This one always stuck with me. It's a squirrel sitting on a pile of acorns, holding a baseball bat, and it says "Protect your nuts."
Nice. There was one other one. I can't remember it now, but it was hysterical. Well, sticks and pucks may break my nuts, but cross checks and hip checks excite me, or something like that.
Yep.
Like it was.
Yep. That one's a classic.
Here's one.
Although really, really quick, and I know this is a family show, but this is going to toe the line a little. My grandmother used to have a coffee cup that somebody got her as a gag gift one year that says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but whips and chains will excite me."
My dad had one. There's a coffee mug, and the front of it says, "To my coworker with whom I share my everyday." You flip it up, it says, "Up yours." Can you tell my old man worked at IBM for 17 years?
You think?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Off the rails. Here we go. Um, back to, yeah, dude, it's gone. It's gone. Bucks are driving again. Hey, let's talk a little.
Just think, by the time we do this in 3 weeks, we'll actually have the car crash sound.
Yes. Wait, are we gonna have a car crash sound that goes into Mankind's entrance music? Because that would be phenomenal.
That would be phenomenal, but we've actually, what you and I have already talked about for the anniversary show 3 weeks from tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to probably end up getting a copyright strike eventually.
We don't really can't come get us if we tell them who it is.
That is true. That is very, very true. Well, we're going to probably end up getting multiple strikes on the same video. But you guys will see that because we've got stuff in the pipe. Mike and I are already working on stuff.
So speaking of historical milestones, let's talk a little Aaron Judge. Could that giant of a human being win the Triple Crown?
I know he slipped out of the top spot in the batting average, like in the last 24 hours or something like that. He's got the MVP already sewn up. I mean, they've got his name on the trophy. It's just they can't formally give it to him yet. If he doesn't, he's gonna be real close. Like he's gonna be like second in one of those categories, and he's gonna be right on somebody's butt.
I mean, the only person that's going to give him a run for his money, 38-7 Ohio State, is going to be Shohei Ohtani, because you still have a guy who leads his team in strikeouts and earned run average and home runs and RBIs. It's a pretty big to do, and this is what the third year in a row he's done it.
Yeah, but let's also keep in mind that, and you and I both know this as Cleveland Guardians / Indians fans, really just how much of a vanity award this is. That Albert Bell should have 2 of these, and he lost to Mo Vaughn and Frank Thomas when he should have won these going away. And the Yankees are 93-58. The Angels were eliminated from the playoffs 3 days ago. They are 32 games out in their division.
Yeah, I know. But I'll see your reason for that and say these 2 words, and that's Andre Dawson.
There's always an anomaly in there somewhere. It's like a defensive player winning the Super Bowl MVP.
Sore subject with me. You remember the Super Bowl preview we did, and I gave you listed the guys who never should have won the MVP of the Super Bowl. That did because of the position they play. Is this the best offensive season we've seen from a right-handed hitter?
You'd be hard-pressed not to agree.
I mean, it's so much that he's hitting .314. He's got 60 bombs. He
is probably we see this analogy, we see this term thrown out a lot. 5-tool player. He is. You got guys that might be 4.75, 4.5. He is probably like, if there's a possibility for like 5.5, Aaron Judge is it. I think this. I can't make an argument that there's a better player in baseball right now than Aaron Judge.
The 6th data point in that is the charisma, and he is lacking a little bit there. If you're going to talk about a 6-tool player, the closest you're going to come is Mookie Betts, because he brings it all on the field. He's outstanding, but he's got that off the field portion of it. Judge is very much – I would like to see if he moved on from the Yankees, if he would come out of his shell a little bit more. For those who don't know right now, Vegas' betting odds are that the New York Mets are 3-1 to sign him in the offseason. Which would be massive. I don't think it's going to happen.
I was going to say, if that's the case, you guys would have a $500 million payroll.
I don't think Steve Cohen cares. I'll be honest with you, I don't think Steve Cohen cares for one very simple reason. If they win let's say they get it done this year. Queens will be an insane asylum all next year. They will be making money hand over fist. So why not? But I'll tell you why not. Nimmo's a free agent. Diaz is a free agent. DeGrom's going to opt out. Bassett's a free agent. Lugo's a free agent. You have a good chunk of your core that could take you to a title is a free agent. Pete Alonso needs a long-term contract now.
Let's think about this with the Yankees. What is the Yankees' MO? Go out and buy the biggest player that you can, sign him for the most money. Here's the problem. The best player that's going to command that deal already plays for you.
And I honestly believe he was insulted by what he did,
Right.
by the deal that they offered him.
Have we ever seen this scenario before?
We have with Albert Bell.
We've certainly
Think about
not
it.
seen it with the Yankees in our lifetime.
Not with the Yankees in our lifetime, but this isn't the George Steinbrenner Yankees. With Herbie's youngest is up. Wow, Herbie's youngest is older. Or is that the one that's playing tight end now? Oh no, Herbie's youngest is in the booth. He's as big as Herbie. And his other son dresses. He's Kate Stover's backup. Sorry, I just saw them. They did the whole lineage, like his dad, him, and then the kids. So I honestly think he was very much put off by the offer that they gave him. And I don't blame him. But at the same time, let's discuss the Yankees portion of this. And I'm not making excuses for him. I'm saying there's been injury concerns every single year since 2017 when he set the record for most home runs by a rookie with 52, which was broken 2 years later by Alonso. This is the first year he's going to play 150 games. And good on him. That's what you do in a contract year. You have a great year so you can make your money. If he was in a more hitters-friendly park for a right-handed hitter, this dude would be scary good.
Let me play devil's advocate here. If he is in a more hitters-friendly park for right-handers, we know he's already we know he's going to pass Maris. Is he sniffing Barry?
If he's not sniffing Barry, he's definitely sniffing McGuire. Let's say this. He'd get to Sosa, which was 66, I think was his most.
Right.
Um,
let's also keep in mind, even though he was injecting needles in every orifice of his body, he's still the only player in Major League history to hit 60 3 times in a year in a season.
There's one other thing no one talks about with him, and yes, he was injecting as much as he could. Before Sammy started going on the power run, Sammy changed his entire swing.
Right.
He changed his setup at the plate. He changed his swing. So was it all steroids? No. Sammy changed his approach. Now, we've seen that with players. We've seen guys change their approach. Look at Jacob deGrom. He came up, he's a sinker baller. He topped out at 94. He finally decided to remake his mechanics to close his front shoulder more, and now he has the fastest fastball in the game. And he's 34.
Let's also remember with Big Mac, and not just because I'm wearing a Cardinals shirt. Big Mac McGuire was still a 35, 40, 45 home run guy before he started injecting. And that's actually what gave him 50, 60, 70. And put him over the top. But Big Mac would still crush 35 a year if he played a full season. That wasn't an issue with him.
Remember, the rookie record was his before Judge broke it.
Right.
1986, he hit 49. Listen, it was a steroid era where they all juiced up. Yeah, all of them. Bonds, McGuire, all of them. Sosa. The only ones who weren't were like Griffey, Piazza, Sean Casey.
Frank Thomas.
Frank Thomas was a gigantic human being. You know he's hawking testosterone pills now?
Yep. They're funny as hell, though.
Oh my God.
Those ads are hilarious.
And him on the set for Fox Baseball. My favorite one they've done was before Game 3 of the World Series in 2015. So, of course, it was the Mets year, so I was paying close attention. Pedro Martinez is on set. Noah Syndergaard started that game. And they go to do the predictions because the Mets were down 2-0. And they go, Pedro, who you like tonight? Pedro picks up a play Mjolnir and yells, Thor! He was at Mets Old Timers Day, and he comes running out like a lunatic. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. My aunt went up to see her twin sister, my other aunt up in Boston, and she calls me. She's like, hey, I got some stuff for you. Comes in. Do you remember the porcelain figurines that they were hawking years ago of like your favorite players, like 2002 through like 2007? They did them. It was like a scene from a game where like it was the finish. Somebody finished a swing, a pitcher walking off the mound.
I don't remember those.
They almost look like the starting lineup figurines, but they were actually.
Did you see they're
ceramic.
bringing those back?
I didn't.
They're now owned by, I don't think it's Hasbro. Starting lineup are coming back. There's a run of 8 of them for the NBA for next year. It's like LeBron, Steph, Giannis. It's Joel Embiid. Yeah, like the big boys. But those are coming back.
Dude, I had a ton of those. Is one for the Browns going to come with a pudding pop?
You said you wouldn't.
Sorry.
We talked Happy Gilmore earlier. I'm going to bring it up, you jackass.
He couldn't resist. I
finally got around because I forgot that it was in my watch later list on YouTube. I finally got around to watching the Eddie Murphy Kennedy Center speech. Did you send me 2 months ago?
Something
I totally
like that.
forgot it's there because you never go to your watch later list.
No, you never do.
And once you add it into watch later, it actually kind of disappears out of your algorithm, so it doesn't show up in your home screen.
Yeah. Eddie had some nice things to say that night, didn't he? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. It's, it is what it is. I could have went with picture pages.
It's going to be funny if they go 7-4, 8-3, and he comes back and stinks up the joint. You have the idea of putting a $240 million, $250 again, adding in Baker's contract, putting that guy back on the bench.
I think that
because
would
your
be
playoff chances are sliding.
I think that would be poetic justice.
No, poetic justice would be, and I really don't want to put this out in the world, but he gets hurt to the point where he's never the same again, and that contract gets flushed down the toilet.
A customer of mine who's a big football guy, asked me this question. For me to consider this I've been very plain that the majority of my issue with the move is contract and on-field questions. I will not watch them for off-field stuff because of my life. He said, what would you consider this to be a success? I said 2 trips and at least 1 Super Bowl. I don't think that's asking too much for that kind of money.
And here's the universal dilemma that every fan goes through. If they get to the first Super Bowl in our lifetime and he's the quarterback, can you pull for them? Can you separate the man from the player. Can you, I mean, for me as a Bills Mafia fan, it's only been for the last 10 years. I'm not old enough to be able to remember OJ.
Can I personally separate it? I don't believe I can. Would I be more than happy for my friends and family who have been longing for this? Absolutely. Would I be happy for the guys on the team if they get their like a Nick Chubb, like Bitonio, like
Miles?
like Miles? Would I be happy for Joe Thomas? Yes. And
You know what, and you know why? It's because if they actually, let's say, stars align and they do it this year, how apropos is it going to be that Thomas is going to be announced for the Hall of Fame the weekend that they'd be in that game?
now that is where I wanted to go next. That's why I took the shot at the guy, but I did want to come back around to this.
Well, let's actually finish our conversation. We'll get into this, but we did want to talk about this. I totally forgot about it, and thank you for bringing it back up.
So can I, like I said, can I separate it? I don't know that I can. I honestly don't. Because of the type of person I am, and because of what I have in my personal life. And I told you this on the phone the other night. And I don't know how some people can separate it, but good on you. Whatever. If they get it done. Now, would it be apropos if it was this year where he didn't have much of a hand in it? Yeah, it would be apropos if it was this year.
Right.
It won't be because, again, you lose your number one wide receiver. You're done. You're done.
Here's also the other thing. You toot your horn a lot and bring it around to the Mets. This year, you're going to see me bringing it around a ton to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills will lose when they're damn good and ready to lose.
They're so good.
Even with Michael Hyde done for the year, Buffalo is still far and away the best team in football.
Yeah, especially now I see Van Jefferson's on IR.
Yeah.
So Sammy Watkins.
Right, but Watkins hasn't been healthy since, honestly, the Bills let him go. Or actually, the last year he was in Buffalo before they moved him.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, do you think you can separate it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's because I've never really had. I think it's because we've never really had one of our teams win a title in our lifetime that had this level of controversy behind it. When my Blues won the Cup, they didn't have that level of controversy. When my Rams won the Super Bowl, they didn't have this level of controversy. When they won it in '99 against the Titans, they didn't have this level of controversy. When the Indians went to their 3 World Series, since you and I have known each other, they didn't have this level of controversy. I'd almost like to maybe be able to get, once he comes back, like our good friend Alex from Row 7, as a Chicago native, do the Chicago Blackhawks 3 Stanley Cup titles now seem tainted with what we know about their front office and what occurred during that time with the Kyle Beach sexual assault case?
It's tough. Now, I will say this, and with me, I had my first championship team was the '86 Mets. Again, more cocaine than Scarface. But I waited after that until 2002 when Ohio State won their national title.
But when the Buckeyes won their title, they didn't have the off the field issues, the controversy
they didn't.
On the field that night.
Yeah, that Chris Gamble was in bounds. End of story.
Yeah, it's that was actually one of the last. I'll agree with you because that's when I was still a Buckeye fan.
Yeah, Chris Gamble was in bounds, and if they make that call correctly, It's Maurice Clarett 3 times into the line, and the clock runs out.
Although you and I both can agree that if Willis McGahee doesn't tear his knee in the first quarter, that's a completely different game. And I think Miami wins that one going away.
I don't think it was the first quarter. I think it was later.
I know it was definitely his first half.
Yeah, I think it was late in the second quarter because no, it was in the third because that's when Miami got going, was after halftime. Because Jarrett Payton was the backup to him that night.
I still think Miami wins that game by 2 scores.
Not by 2 scores. Not with the way that defense played that night. Ken Dorsey never had a dirty uniform in his 2 years as a starter at Miami until that night. They hit him repeated. They did to Ken Dorsey what the New York Giants did to Tom Brady and what the New England Patriots did to Kurt Warner in those Super Bowls. They hit him, they bumped their wide receivers, and they didn't let them run the football.
Yeah, but let's also keep this into perspective. When Brady, Brady's weapons were always role players. Miami had nothing but firepower with guys who could actually make their own holes and create their own yardage. McGahee was a huge part of that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that, and I said this to people going into that game. Miami's a great team. They have never played a Big Ten defense. It's a different animal. Each conference had different animals back then. The Big East was run by Miami, and they played great on both sides of the ball with stars all over the place. They were the U again.
They were that generation's what Alabama is now. It's like, you start thinking the argument, could they beat a low-end NFL team,
Exactly. So, but the Big East predominantly did not have teams that played a lot of defense. Not until Greg Schiano took over at Rutgers and had a decent team. So that was my thing going into that night. They had not played a Big Ten defense, and that's exactly why Ohio State won that national championship. Let's not mess around. They won that national title because their defense punched Miami in the mouth repeatedly, and Miami had never needed to get off the deck. What did they won 30 games in a row at that point in time?
I think so, yeah.
They were crazy. Yo, somebody just assaulted Brutus with one of those big blow-up things you run into people with.
Like those big fat suits?
Not a fat suit, but looks like a ball.
Oh, yeah, the gyroscope, the inflatable gyroscope ball, or like the old American Gladiators Atmosphere thing.
No, but the smaller version.
Right. I know what you're talking about, but yeah,
run.
I'm making the facsimile of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, and then I want to get into the NFL Hall of Fame. We'll wrap up with that. The Mets were just recently in Milwaukee for 3 games. They took 2 out of 3. And Steve Gelbs, their sideline reporter, who took over for the great Kevin Burkhardt, who we all know is now one of the top guys at Fox and the studio host for baseball, he ran the sausage race and won.
Fix.
Jim, Keith Hernandez outdid himself that day. The words, "We are never going to hear the end of this," came out of his mouth. The man is a national treasure. I don't care what
and it still always comes back to Keith Hernandez and the Mets.
Look, let me ask you something. Out of all the former players who do color commentary, does anyone say the crap he does?
I'll give you that, but I mean, but you know me, it's really outside of, cards and guards. Ooh, I like that.
You too.
Yeah, outside of cards and guards, it's almost like rock and sock connection. Outside of cards and guards, I actually don't get it. I don't watch a ton of baseball.
I will send you the clip of him and Gary Cohen doing that. Don't put it in your watch later.
No, trust me, it's outside of like 2 loads of laundry after we get done tonight. My entire day tomorrow is free. And shame on you, CBS, for the Cleveland, Ohio area because
I
of the
saw
fact,
that.
because of you should be giving us Miami and Buffalo tomorrow. Why the hell do we care about Cincinnati and the Jets?
To rub it in Cleveland's face.
Yeah, but there's a realistic chance the Jets can send the Bengals to 0-3 tomorrow.
That'd be hilarious. Oh, wait. Don't they have a really good wide receiver who's young who could have helped a certain team in the AFC North?
Why, yes, Michael, they do, considering they could have drafted him at 13 instead of trading away 3 years of picks.
Did you like how Garrett Wilson threw up the OH on the first touchdown? I mean, my favorite.
Did you like how he screamed at the fans in the dog pound when he had the go-ahead winner?
Yes. I will say this with my NFL fandom, and it's always been this since I really embraced being an Ohio State fan living out there. I am more loyal to the guys who went to school there that go to the NFL than I am to any team. Like I said, Nick Mangold is the reason I'm no longer a Jet fan. When they let him go, I still got the jersey in my closet. I had a 5X Nick Mangold jersey at Marshall's here for $9. And it's an official. It's the sewn on name, and it's the actual like hard rubber NFL logo here.
Very nice. I still have you beat because I have Al Bundy, but everybody else pales in comparison to Al Bundy.
Look, the Al Bundy one is not my favorite of yours.
Falco, yeah.
It's the Shane Falco. And it will always be. Travion Henderson just jumped over a dude who was falling and accelerated for 12 yards. He's going to be fun when he comes out.
You think?
So let's get
okay. Who's going to be more fun, Travion or JSB?
Depends where they go. Because I can tell you. Yeah, I knew you were talking about. I can tell you that with Cooper Rush being the main quarterback this year, if he comes out, JSN will most likely end up going home and playing in Dallas, which will drive Willie nuts because he hates the Cowboys. So let's jump into the 129 modern era NF Pro Football Hall of Fame for the class of 2023.
Very, very quickly, Guardians win 4-2 over the Rangers, and combined with a loss to the Detroit Tigers tonight, to the Los Angeles Angels, the Minnesota Twins were officially eliminated from the AL Central race. And with a loss tonight, the Chicago White Sox are now 9 games back. The Cleveland Guardians magic number is 2. The Guardians could be clinching by the time you all get up for work tomorrow on Monday morning. They are 9-1 in their last 10.
And Willie told Natalie and I that we were homers for picking them to win a wild card.
Think of the gambit that we've run just on this show tonight.
I know.
Bottom of the division, contending possibly for a wild card, and they now have one of the larger – they actually have a bigger lead in their division than the Yankees do.
It plays. So I will take my W for that. So let's get to the 129 modern era nominees for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There are 6 quarterbacks. You ready to get in the Wayback Machine, James?
Go ahead.
I'm going to start with the guys I think have no chance, and that's Jeff Garcia and Jake Delhomme. And then we go to guys.
Well, you know why?
Because they played in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Dave Craig, the old Seattle, right?
Yes.
Now let's get into the names that I think have a shot. Randall Cunningham, Donovan McNabb, Steve McNair.
The late, great Steve McNair. I think my mom dated his cousin for a while. Like, legit.
I will tell you, that was my favorite Super Bowl I've ever watched.
Oh, it's
When
still the
he
greatest Super Bowl ever.
When he took that, well, when him and Eddie George took that Tennessee Titans team to the Super Bowl and came up a yard short. So that's the quarterbacks. I think out of those guys, McNair is really the only one with a chance, to be honest with you. No disrespect to Randall Cunningham or Donovan McNabb. Jake Delhomme rode a really good defense and a good running game to a Super Bowl in Carolina. Jeff Garcia could never get out of Steve Young's shadow with Mariucci and the 49ers, and of course went to Cleveland. You can make a case for Randall Cunningham. I mean, he is the quarterback of that great 15-1 Minnesota Vikings team with Randy Moss and Chris Carter. And his years in Philadelphia, where he just revolutionized the quarterback position. We don't have Michael Vick if we don't have Randall Cunningham, which by extension, we don't have Lamar Jackson if we don't have Randall Cunningham.
But
what do you think?
The argument against Randall Cunningham is he had a porous postseason
He did.
record. You don't get into the Hall of Fame just off of regular season numbers.
That's very true. 23-21 A&M Arkansas just missed a kick.
Wow.
So let's go to the running backs. There are 17 of them. I'm going to throw out a couple of names I think should get in. And the top of that list, and you'll like it because you were a fan then, is the 1995 Heisman Trophy winner, Eddie George. Other than that, Mike Allstott.
You can make a case for Allstott.
And his backfield tandem partner in Warwick Dunn. This player is also on the list for kick returners and punt returners and wide receivers. How about Eric Metcalf?
He won't get in because they only ran him up the middle.
No, Belichick only ran him up the middle.
I'll see myself out.
No, and now you know why I don't give Bill Belichick a lot of credit for New England, because it's still Charlie Weiss's offense and Romeo Crennel's defense. Couple other names here that I think are interesting. How about Ricky Waters? Won a Super Bowl in San Francisco. He was the running back for the Steve Young, Deion Sanders team that beat San Diego.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Ricky Waters in the top 10 or top 15 all time in rushing?
I believe so. It's definitely 50. He's not top 10. He's definitely top 15. But other names that we remember, Sean Alexander, the Alabama running back who was on that team when what's his name? Oh, he's an analyst on ESPN now.
Ricky Waters is 24th.
He's that far down?
Yeah. 10,643.
Was he higher when he retired?
Yes.
That's
because I can actually see, like, on this list since he retired, Fred Taylor, Steven Jackson, Corey Dillon, Shady McCoy, Warwick Dunn, LT, Peterson still going, and Frank Gore all passed him. So, I mean, yeah, he was top 15 at the time.
Former Brown and Raven Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, I don't think he gets in, but I mean, if they actually were going to start doing things for, like, Hall of Fame for, like, legendary accomplishments, I think he gets in for still having the all-time single-game rushing record.
I agree. One person who shouldn't be anywhere near a Hall of Fame ever is Tiki Barber. Priest Holmes.
Good, but you start thinking, it was a it wasn't the largest sample size, and again, not a whole lot of playoff success. It's the anti-Terrell Davis argument.
Yeah, and then the last one I'm going to bring up is Chris Johnson. Gus Johnson's my favorite call he ever made. He's got breakaway from the cop speed.
Yeah. I heard that somewhere not long ago. Like on a broadcast or something, or like on a YouTube compilation. Like I'm talking like within the last 10 days.
Really?
Yeah.
That, and when he called the 2017 Big Ten championship game, when Dobbins did the jump cut and took off, and he goes, "Look at this freshman." I'm going to skip the wide receivers for now because there's only 3 tight ends, and one of them is getting in, and that's Dallas Clark.
Yeah.
Then it's Ben Coates and Wesley Walls, the old Jet. Coates
Nope.
might.
It'd be a legend committee at best.
Think so? Wide receivers. Let's start with a guy who's going to get in for not being a wide receiver. And that's Devin Hester.
Right.
Maybe the greatest return man of all time.
And we're always going to be bitter against him because he stole the record away from our local guy, Josh Cribbs.
Who, by the way, is on the list as a special teams player.
I could see a scenario where both of them get in. Devin Hester gets in now. I could see a scenario where Josh Cribbs gets in a few years.
Anquan Bolden. Andre Johnson.
I think Anquan Bolden, maybe not this year, maybe not first ballot, but definitely within the first 2 or 3.
Here's a couple names I think are guaranteed to get in. Maybe not first ballot. Reggie Wayne's getting in.
Yes.
Wes Welker.
I think Wes Welker won't get in this year, but I think he gets in next year.
But Andre Rison. I don't think so either. Lyman that we're going to fit over.
You're going to skip those. We're going to come back to that.
You want to do that last?
We're going to do those last because that's for obvious reasons.
See, the DNs, defensive lineman, I don't think anybody's getting in. Maybe Will Fork, maybe Dwight Freeney. I know you said a case can be made for Jared Allen. Robert Mathis, no. Leroy Glover.
I think Jared Allen's about the only one with a legitimate shot within their eligibility, to be honest. I think Dwight Freeney was very good, but was very injury prone, and that prevented him from being great.
Here's one. Zach Thomas.
I think Zach Thomas is in. I don't know if it's first ballot, but he'll definitely be in.
I don't think Brewski gets in.
No.
I think James Harrison should be shot out of a cannon.
But the problem is I think James Harrison's going to get in.
Must be nice to play for Pittsburgh. Let's see. James Ferrier, no. John Carroll's own London Fletcher. For longevity itself.
Potentially, and he's also got a Super Bowl. He was with the 99 Rams.
Yep. But here's where it gets fun. This is like a who's who of when we were kids. Eric Allen, Rondé Barber, Dre Bly, Cam Chancellor, Nick Collins, Antonio Cromartie, Merton Hanks, Rodney Harrison, Albert Lewis, Terry McDaniel, Tim McDonald, The Island, Darrell Revis, Alan Rossum, Asante Samuels, Bob Sanders, Charles Tillman, Troy Vincent, Adrian Wilson, and Darren Woodson.
I can see 3 of those right now.
Revis, Rondé, and who?
I'm going to say Ronnie Harrison.
Okay. I think Cam Chancellor's got a shot.
Not first ballot.
Definitely not first ballot, but he's got a shot. I think Darrell Revis is a slam dunk.
Oh, Darrell Revis is going to be a unanimous.
The special teams guys, Josh Cribbs and Brian Mitchell.
And we already talked about JC.
We did. Gary Anderson.
How is he
Elam.
not in already?
I know. Jeff Fiegels,
No.
Jason Hansen.
You could make an argument for Jason Hansen. He was one of the lone bright spots of those lowly Lions teams.
How is Sean Landetta not in?
Because unless your name is Ray Guy, the punters don't get in.
Oh, I think we're going to get a punter in very soon. Shane Leckler.
Not who I thought you were going to say, but shut up. Just shut up. Just shut up.
Then you got Ryan Longwell. I'm going to skip one for the end. And Matt Turk. And the greatest sports media talent maybe of all time. He is best known for his hit on Trendon Holiday, which you've ever seen his stand-up. He did it like that.
You need to do this diatribe in a voice like him.
Baby's asleep in the other room. I can't.
Okay. How about Stephanie come in and knock you on the head with something? You just end up drinking a beer while you're passed out.
That's cool. We are, of course, talking about the king of all sports media.
Jim Rome?
The new king of all sports media. None other than College Game Day's own Pat McAfee has been nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jim, if fans had a vote, he would be in.
It would be the largest vote in history.
It did, and you said you saw the video of him. He was shocked. So let's go back to, because I see a few. Let's go back to the offensive lineman, and there's a reason we left the offensive lineman for last, and that, of course, is Cleveland's own Joe.
Don't I was going to say
Thomas.
Sidney for last.
We'll get into why he goes in, but he's headlining this group, and you got to throw with him first. But you have other names in there. You have Massillon Jackson's own Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Olin Kreutz, Jeff Saturday.
Saturday is a surefire. Maybe not first ballot, but definitely.
Lomas Brown.
Legends Committee.
Logan Mankins.
No.
Mark Schlereth.
I'm going to sound controversial by saying this. I'm going to say no. Surely for the fact of it's the anti-McAfee. Is that I think his media career hurts him in the eyes of the voters after his playing career.
Well, as a player, I think he should be in as a player.
He should be in as a player, but let's also remember how fickle voters can be. There was one other person that you did you touch on linebackers or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
yes,
good.
No, yeah.
Because there's another guy there's a guy that we're going to talk about when we get to linebackers here after the offensive lineman that's going to show just how fickle voters are. But I don't know. I can.
We did.
Realistically,
we talked London Fletcher, we talked James Harrison, we talked McGinnis. You're going to bring up Teddy Bruschi. No,
I'm going to bring up one other guy.
Who is it?
Clay Matthews.
This is not the Legends Committee. Clay Matthews is going to be an entirely different thing with us. This is the guys who are still on the normal, the modern era.
Okay.
So that's why I went with Joe there. But also, like I said, you have Nick Mangold, you have DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Olin Kreutz, Logan Mankins, Mark Schlereth, Chris Snee, the old giant, Brian Waters, Richmond Webb, Steve Wisniewski.
Wisniewski was very good.
As good as all those guys were, Joe Thomas really is a class by himself. I mean, Mangold, you can give. I think Nick Mangold should get in. If Kevin Mawai is in, who was his predecessor in New York, I think you have to, because the Jets really went 17 years with two centers.
Right.
Because no one remembers Mangold was there 10, 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
DeBrickashaw Ferguson was outstanding. So yeah, this is a deep class of guys who were nominated. Of course, it will get cut down to 25 players by is it by the Super Bowl they cut it down to 25 and then they vote the weekend of the Super Bowl and then
I think it's cut down a little bit before then.
okay. But let's get into the gentleman you mentioned before, and that's Clay Matthews. Who you had numbers yesterday when we spoke. He should have been in years ago.
Right. And kudos to his wife and his daughter for leading the online campaign to get him further along in the voting process every year for about the last 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is not a homer take because Clay Matthews was playing when I would go there on vacation. He was on the two teams that went to the back-to-back AFC title games against Denver, right?
He was on all three of them. Remember, the two back-to-back, and then they skipped, and then they went in 89.
Who did they lose to in 89? Denver again?
Denver. That was the blowout.
Hold on.
Remember, 86 was the drive, 87 was the fumble, 89 was the blowout.
When Denver then got the doors blown off them by that was the 55-10 Super Bowl.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about the camera thing. I think it's starting on its way out. I've had it since I've done the podcast 4 years. I've had it 3. So you're talking about a guy whose numbers eclipse recent Hall of Famers like Junior Seau. Who was the other one you mentioned yesterday?
Derek Thomas.
No disrespect to their careers, neither Junior nor Derek Thomas, both who were elected posthumously to the Hall of Fame. Clay Matthews deserved to be in years ago. It almost seems like playing in Cleveland was held against him. Are you searching things?
One quick thing. Okay, let's keep this in mind. He's got more sacks than Junior Seau. They didn't start keeping track of sacks until 82.
That's insanity.
Myles Garrett is 1 sack away from breaking his Browns all-time franchise record in only, 7-8 years? Had they been keeping sacks when Matthews came
Myles
into
was
the
drafted
league?
in 2017.
Okay, so 6 years?
6, yeah.
Yeah. So he's about to break Clay Matthews' record. Problem is Clay Matthews entered the NFL in the late 70s. So there's 5 or 6 years in there of his career that they didn't even start keeping track of sacks.
Yeah. Sidebar, Stephen F. Austin put up 98 points today. In a shutout.
There's a legendary, I can never remember who did this bit, but it was a classic college football stand-up comedy routine that somebody did about the first ever game where Notre Dame won like 222-0 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, you walk into the 2 locker rooms and the losing locker room is like, okay, we're only down by 2, 3, 17 touchdowns. Joe, when you snap the ball, snap it backwards. And then you go in the other locker room. It's like, okay, who hasn't scored yet? Okay, Susie, put on your brother's helmet. You're going in.
I remember that.
I'm trying to now. I'm gonna probably spend I'm gonna do a deep dive tonight to try and find who did that.
Oh, here we go. You got to send it to me. So let's wrap this up with one final topic that I want to get into. It's very simple. What other hilarity should we let people in on for the 15th?
We got to save something, dude.
I will say this. There will be one topic you and I stick to that day. It will probably take about 20 minutes, half hour. We're going to preview the Cavaliers season that day.
Mm-hmm.
So let's wear our Cavs gear until it becomes insanity.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to preview the Cleveland Cavaliers season that day, which could be – I'm actually going to do numbers for this one. So you know how pumped I am for the Cavs season if I'm going to dive into numbers and not just do this stuff from my memory. Having said that, outside of that, we're just going to have a ton of fun with that. The week before, I'm going to start tomorrow with getting people in. We're going to put together the Big Rican Baseball Show playoff preview because we are at the end of the regular season. I can tell you even who's the starting pitchers are for the next so many games for the Mets. We won't do that. The Guardians are ready to clinch the Central Division. The Dodgers and the Astros have already wrapped up their division titles and the 1 seeds in both leagues. We are coming down higher in the first year of the 6-team per league playoff setup for Major League Baseball. Let's see how it works. I can tell you we will have an off-season show talking about the banning of the shift to the pitch clock and everything else. But outside of that, James, what's coming up for the outside of your weekly Browns reviews? What's coming up for your the JC Sports Note?
I mean, we'll probably actually do it. We've got NHL training camps that opened just 2 days ago. And really quick, let me throw a trivia question out there, and let's see if you can get this. And it's going to be, I think it's something that you are going to be able to get. We had a piece of hockey history back on the 13th, just over a week ago. There was a trade that occurred back in 1988 that, if you follow the lineage of the trade, was still active 34 years later. And it just died last week. Can you name the trade?
Wayne Gretzky from the Edmonton Oilers to the Los Angeles Kings.
Exactly.
Who was still playing?
The Wayne Gretzky trade tree is officially dead.
How?
There is a legendary section of Sportsnet, which is a very, very prominent Canada sports network. And they've got a wonderful, and he's basically Canada's version of Pat McAfee, except he's a little bit more on point with his numbers, and he screams a lot more. And I honestly think he might be a little bit funnier. His name is Steve Glynn. He goes by the name of Steve Dangle. I think I've mentioned him on this show before. Steve Dangle, normally during the season on Tuesdays, they have Steve's hat picks, which are the plays of the week. And then on Thursdays, it's the best day of the week because it's Steve's Dang It's. Those are the bloopers. During the offseason, Steve has actually put together trade trees for some of the biggest trades in the history of the NHL. We're talking the Patrick Waugh trade. They just finally did a deep dive on the Trevor Linden trade from the Islanders to the Vancouver Canucks.
Really?
That from back in 1996 that just ended a couple of years ago with Jacob Markstrom finally leaving the Vancouver Canucks as a free agent. The Wayne Gretzky trade tree started on August 9th, 1988. It was Gretzky and a couple of players for several more, $15 million in cash and draft picks. If you follow the lineage of that, none of those players are still playing. But if we're talking about picks that were flipped, players that were traded, and everything is still a trade. If a team traded, let's say, somebody was still playing in the trade was 1988. Let's say a player was still playing in 2000, and then they got traded for a second round pick to another team. It continues the tree. Between the Oilers and the Kings, there were 64 trades that extended this trade tree 34 years. And it just ended on the 13th when Nelson Nogier signed with a team in the KHL, which is the Russian Professional Hockey League.
That's crazy.
34 years.
That's wow.
The Trevor Linden one that they did today was hilarious because some of the players that got moved, you had Todd Bertuzzi, and you also had Roberto Luongo in that one. And Bobby Lou's going to the Hall of Fame. And here's the kicker. And I know you're not a big hockey guy, Mike. Part of that trade tree on the Canucks side, they acquired a couple of picks. They ended up making a couple of trades and moved up to get the number one pick in the 2000 NHL draft. Then they turn around and they flipped that pick, and they already had the third and ended up moving back to 2. Not only did the Vancouver Canucks land Roberto Luongo in this, who turned into a Hall of Famer, they also ended up as part of this trade tree with the Sedin twins.
Stop it.
It's a 30-minute video on Sportsnet's channel. I know you might not have that kind of time, but it's hilarious just to see how big of a mess this thing was and how many different directions it went. And then Dangle at the end of it says, we're hearing all of your ideas. And somebody said, why not actually research the first trade ever? It's like, yeah, that would be fun, but we have to write it.
That's great.
It's hilarious. And he's screaming it. And it's like, it's a bunch of jump cuts and everything, but it's hilarious. And the amazing thing of just honestly, go if you're out there, and Mike, I'll even suggest this to you, even if you're not a hockey fan, go watch one of these trade trees because they will break down the pick, who they took, if they got flipped, how many games they got out of this player, if they ended up signing somewhere else, if it killed that trade tree, and the star player who might be the focal point, that team may end up losing because even though that star player might have been uber successful, they might have gotten more productivity out of the other side of the trade tree with 3 or 4 other role players making this up.
No, I can imagine what some of the baseball ones would have been too.
You know what? I think it would be very, very cool if there's a site or a YouTube, channel out there that can do something like this. I think the NFL and you may not be able to get it as much in the NBA, with the shorter rosters and everything, but I'd love to see if there's, a baseball trade tree or a football trade tree, section out there. For all we know, the Robert Griffin trade between the Rams and the Redskins from years ago might still be going on.
I think it is.
Yeah, that's just amazing how much of a deep dive you can get in with some of these.
Isn't that how they got Donald?
You might be right. And it's interesting to even see a few years from now, are these things still going? In 10 years, is this thing still going to be going, And what other trades may actually occur to where we have the ripple effect? But I actually ended up watching that right before I came on with you. That's why I was in such a good mood, just because Dangle's just funny as hell. But again, we are going to put out we are going to get some new content this weekend. I've got all kinds of time. I think my last 4 entries have been a little bit of college football. We didn't have the massive upsets or biggest stories like we did last week. So I think I'm going to move away from that. I might want to get a little NBA going here because we got camps opening before too long. I definitely want to get some hockey out there because, again, training camps just opened 2 days ago. The first exhibition games were tonight. So by the time we actually see you, ironically enough, I think it's going to be opening weekend for the NHL.
Is it that early? Wow.
Yeah. Because I think they're also starting it over in, I want to say it's Slovakia. Before the pandemic and everything, they did actually have they would do the opening weekend where they would play games in Helsinki or Oslo or something, just kind of go across the pond for 2 or 3 games and then just bring everybody back home.
Sounds like a plan. Baseball has opened in Tokyo. The Mets did that a few years ago. That was the 2000 season. They open their season in Tokyo. I guess next year we're getting regular season games in Mexico City.
Yep.
And I think they're going to London. NFL goes there every year too. So let us sign off for the final time in September. James, I'll talk to you between now and then, but we will see you for the Wise Guys 1 year anniversary show, October 15th. Time to be determined, because I have an idea.
3
I
weeks
know,
from
3 weeks.
tonight. 3
Insanity.
weeks. That's not for you. That's for everybody out there. Get your popcorn, grab your seatbelt.
Well, we'll have to do
And how's the phrase go? Hold on to your butts.
If we're going to start doing Luther the anger translator, it's going to be a longer night than it already has been. And Ohio State just dropped 50 on Wisconsin.
Now you make me want to go. Well, first of all, I think I want to watch the end of this K-State game because they're up 27-20.
What are you playing?
Oklahoma.
Wow.
It's I think I want to watch the end of that, and it's still got a little bit of TV to catch up on as well. But Michael needs to get to bed. I think I do too, because I've been up since 2 a.m.
5.
Yeah.
James, have a good rest of your night. Everybody out there, I guess we got one person still watching. Have a great night. We will see you guys on the 15th for the Wise Guys 1 year anniversary show. Hard to believe it's already here. Take care, everybody.
Good night.